Hello, 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 community. Welcome to Cafecito Break Tuesdays. And I am here with my sister, my beautiful goddess friend, Zaza Ali. Welcome to the show, Mama. How are you?
Peace, Queen. I am doing very well. Thank you for having me, and peace and love to your audience.
Thank you. So I want to thank everyone who is tuning in right now and going to ask you if you want to be part of the chat, if you're going to want to have some questions later when we open up for Q&A, please subscribe. And let me tell you a little bit about my beautiful sister. Zaza Ali is an author. She's an educator, entrepreneur, and a spiritual liaison. And under this umbrella of the company Alchemy Publishing, she has released two books, four metaphysical workbooks, and a plethora of workshops, merchandise, and online content. You can find her content on IG. I am Zaza Ali, and on YouTube, Zaza Ali. And you can find her website, ZaZaAli.com. Welcome, sis.
Thank you so much for having me.
I believe that the last time we connected was in 2019.
That sounds about right.
Oh man, it's it's interesting to be connecting during this time. So much movement has happened for all of us around the world, and it's interesting because even though the last time I connected with you was physically, on this virtual level, was then, it does feel like no time has passed, which is interesting. I think that humanity is on such a awakening path, and it's filled with lots of beautiful and very painful realizations. And today I am excited that we're having this chat because I feel like you're one of those voices. From years you are unapologetic, but you're unapologetic in a graceful way in which you bring wisdom and knowledge and experience, and you integrate that in the way that you express yourself and the way you're understanding metaphysics and the connections in science. And you're also very bold and courageous, and there are very few like you on this planet who have who are putting everything on the line to be able to express these thoughts that many of us are thinking or asking questions about, or are a little bit even nervous. Many people are just whispering these things, but I think that collectively, I think that people know something doesn't feel or seem right, and it hasn't really seemed like that for a long time. So with that, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity for this conversation. And
Well,
how have you been?
I think unapologetic, but in a graceful way. That might be one of the best compliments that anyone has ever paid me. Particularly because I am a lioness. You know what I mean, and as I've grown in wisdom, there were certain periods where I didn't want to be a lioness. You know what I'm saying? Because being a lioness means you have to roar, and you know what I'm saying. You got to defend the pack and everything that comes with that. And I was tired. You know what I mean? Like I'm battle tested. You know what I'm saying? Through social media, through life, and I just got tired at one point. And then, of course, fast forward, you kind of pivot and shift things around a little bit. And I'm at the point now, particularly with what's going on in the world, where I have 100% embraced, the lioness, and embrace the roar. Sometimes I hear myself. I don't even really listen to my videos after I do them, but sometimes, when people tag me and I'll hear myself and I'll come off super not powerful, but passionate. And I'll be like, oh, Zaza, you could have said that another way, or, you know what I mean? But at this point, sounding the alarm is not, you know what I'm saying? Chime bowls and flowery language and music, like, and to your question about 2020, there's this, in the metaphysics or the spiritual world, right? The spiritual teachers and those of us who are aspiring to be, spiritually focused, what you focus on expands, right?
Right.
The law of attraction, right? Basically whatever you are resonating and emanating is what's actually creating your reality. And so in 2020, when I was living in Atlanta, once I saw that what I had actually been researching for 20 years and what I had written about in my book, and all the conspiracy theories, I have 20, 30 books behind me talking about what's taking place in the world right now. So once it became apparent, like, oh my God, this is really happening, the first approach was, wait, let me stop, research, be still, that thing. But then it was like, well, from a spiritual perspective, we have to be balanced in our awareness, but we also have to be careful about giving it too much attention, right? Because we fan the flame, so to speak, right? In the quantum realm, whatever we're thinking and feeling is creating the reality, right? So I took 2020 and I just kind of was still. I put some content out, but there was like a 6 to 7 month gap where I didn't put any content out because I was in that space of, okay, I have to cover down over myself and my son. I don't want to bring any negative energy to me. People are scared out of their minds. And if they knew half the things that I know, it would really blow them away. And I can't be disingenuous and go online and make it seem like everything is all good when literally the world is falling apart, which is something that I struggle with understanding in the world right now, right? Like we're talking about vaccine passports, and can we speak freely? We're on YouTube, right?
We're on YouTube, yeah, so we're
Okay, so
probably gonna have to use
yeah,
the coded fun
let me
language.
put that hat on, no problem.
Fun.
But as I'm just sitting back and looking at everything, and it's like, bro, so I typed out for 6, 7 months, came back to California, moved around a little bit, got my son settled in California, and things didn't improve. You know what I'm saying? So my tapping out of this world and kind of being internally focused and what, you know what I mean? The trajectory of what was taking place was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. I had an interesting conversation recently on Instagram, and I've heard this, in different ways. Stop promoting fear. You're giving too much attention to this. That kind of sentiment. And so I sat back and didn't say anything and just kind of observed everything. And things got worse, and then things got worse. Now, the Kabbalion talks about the law of causation, right? And the law of cause and effect. So what's happening now is directly tied to an agenda that has taken place or that has been in the works for 100 years now, right? So the law of cause and effect, which is a spiritual law, says that not only that agenda from the powers that be, I say the powers that used to be, but not only that agenda, but humanity has been so off the rails for so long. You know what I mean? What's happening right now is a physical manifestation of what's going on in the minds and hearts of the people around the world, right? So, you know what I mean? The law of cause and effect has led us to this point. So we can't deny the slaves that were brought here, you know what I mean, the Africans that were brought here and that built this country, which gave, endless wealth to European nations. Those people from those European nations at the top of the pyramid, a small group of white men, took that money, took that wealth, took that experience and expanded, right? And created this world that we know of right now. So 2020 was a very, eye-opening as far as what was happening in the world, but it was also it was validation for me, number one, because I caught a lot of flack over the years for the conspiracy theory pseudoscientist piece, right? Mm-hmm. But then it was also I realized, like, yeah, this is why I'm here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here to set it off. And set it off, destroy a world and build a world. Like, I'm trying to be a part of both of those things, right? So it was confirmation and validation for me for the 42 years of my life and everything that I've been through, the best and the worst of it, and my avid thirst for knowledge and, researching all this stuff that most people were like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, my book isn't a bestseller because it's not a sexy subject, right? It's not something that most people are even interested in. So it just kind of brought me full circle into myself. Like, yeah, this is why I'm here, and this is why I am who I am. So, and then also the ignorance and the aloofness and the You know what I mean? Like the realization of like, bro, we're surrounded by like automatons, people that really don't have their own mind. You know what I'm saying? Like you could tell them the sky is blue, but they'll look up and make up some excuse or talk about their contacts or their sunglasses. Like it really dawned on me how the masses of people on this planet have no idea what is actually taking place. So I don't want to let. So 2020 was very clarifying for me, gratifying, and also I ended up leaving Atlanta, coming to California specifically for the beach, to LA, and
Awesome.
that's where we are now.
So I have a question. When all of
Yes.
that was sort of coming together in 2020, I'm imagining as you were speaking, all of this crashing of information just sort of like integrating into like one timeline.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, all of these things that maybe was still trying to figure out are all crystallized at this moment.
Hmm.
So walking back early 2020, the heightened fear is on TV. You're starting to see making these connections really quickly. Most of the masses are pivoting to shut down, to hide. And I'm not saying this with any criticism from anyone. I know everyone had very different experiences from wherever you were, right? I'm just saying just how people integrate information. Some people I know didn't leave their home for months. When you were seeing all of this being really heightened in the media, how did you pivot when it came to, were you using Pampers on your face? Did you stay home? Did you decide to take walks outside? How were you integrating early 2020, knowing
You
all
know,
of this information that's coming into your awareness and it's
I mean, that you said some people didn't leave home for months. That is just absolutely astounding to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and man, I've also realized how much human beings don't really know themselves, because there was never a question of me, was I gonna be get sick? I was never the person that was like every time I walked in a store and touched, I sent hand sanitizer everywhere, and you know what I mean. Like I I I wore masks in Target or Whole Foods, right? The places that I had to go, but I never wore it on my nose. So that's my compromise, right? Because I don't want to, I'm picking my battles. Can I go into every store and, and stake my claim and talk about, the Constitution and all that stuff? Sure. Is it worth all that to me? No, because it's a business. So it's a private business. So you have the right to go there or you can go somewhere else, right? It wasn't, the stipulations weren't as dire in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, as they are in California, and I obviously didn't realize that until I got here. And I know the same was true for New York. I had a client that I was working with at the time that was in New York, so she was giving me the play-by-play there. And just so everybody knows, California and New York is where culture is created. So the saying goes, as California goes, so goes the nation, right? So it was very strategic when I first started, paying attention to what was going on, that it was the heightened the most in California and New York, right? This is where everything was going down. But then you're in Atlanta and it's like, yeah, there was mask mandates and people weren't really out in the streets, but it was not as severe as far as the climate, so to speak, as it was in these areas. So outside, I've never worn a mask. Matter of fact, most of the time I take the mask off as soon as I make my purchase in the store. Now that I have what I want from you, I'm out of here and I take it off, right? It's ludicrous to wear a face mask anywhere outside. I mean, it's ludicrous for me inside, but just to be outside with fresh air and fresh oxygen and the sun is shining and you're wearing a mask that obviously it's not protecting you from anything. But I am a natural introvert. So it's not difficult for me to not have to deal with the world, right? My son, being 16, 17 years old, well, he was 17 at the time, it was harder for him, the online schooling, his friends would come and go. So our life wasn't turned upside down the way a lot of people's lives were. Was I walking every day? Was I working out every day? I was going to Stone Mountain. I was hiking. You know what I mean? I was really taking the time to kind of focus on yoga, focus on my physical fitness, and just really kind of getting my mindset right. But I knew from the beginning what it was. I before I even was able to cross the T's and dot the I's and research this and this and that, I knew what it was because I knew the agenda that was planned 100 years ago, right? And what to look for when it was coming. So I didn't panic. I was like, oh, okay, it's on, right? I started to see it, but I also wasn't out in the world, right? So I'm not interacting with a lot of people that are super paranoid, family or anything. I was just me and my son. When I came to California and I was in San Francisco and I drove to Fisherman's Wharf and did not see one human being. If you've been to San Francisco, you know all along the piers, along the Pacific Ocean, where the bridge crosses, it's all lined by water. It's beautiful. There's piers, the boat docks and everything. I didn't see a soul, and it freaked me out. That's when I think it really the gravity of it and how it had affected the masses. You know what I mean? That's when it really, really, really set in on me. Like, oh wow, they bought it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the world bought it.
So quickly.
You
So
know, so
quickly.
that's kind of where I was with it. But I haven't been sick. I don't get sick.
Man.
I have 100% faith in my immune system. I'm not worried about variants. I'm not worried. I do what I'm supposed to do as far as how I take care of myself. That's the focal point for me. I'm not worried about what's happening in the world because what's happening inside of me is what actually creates my world.
I love that. Oh,
Thank you.
I could not have expected a lesser response from Zaza. And I asked you that with intention. When this was starting to get heightened, and as you said, we started to see the craziest restrictions right away in California,
Mm-hmm,
and quickly then New York City
mm-hmm,
followed. But
mm-hmm.
I remember around that time, whenever De Blasio would get on press conference, or even just the way it was being written on the press, it was like, oh, ground zero. And I'm like, ground zero, come on, what's going on here? This is horrible. Like,
Yeah,
why are you even like September 11 was that's a whole different day.
yeah.
Like, why are you even bringing that here?
Stoking
But
fear.
at the
Stoking.
same time, a little clue, right? And maybe that wasn't their intentional clue, that they were going to about to traumatize the masses in
Yes,
that same level.
yes,
Except that instead of like one big shock of a moment, it's gonna be drawn out
yes.
across. How many months are we in now?
18, 19.
It's unbelievable.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? The traumatizing also, but also when you rekindle that memory of 9/11, right? The mind can't comprehend anything worse than that. You know what I'm saying? So it's automatically like, well, he's saying ground zero. We know it won't be it. That's what's happening in the subconscious minds of people, right? Like ground zero evokes fear, obviously, in a whole different level in New York, but just for me, right? It
Right.
evokes a certain level of fear and trauma, right? But then our minds can't conceive anything being worse than that. Anything watching planes fly into a building and people falling out. You know what I'm saying? Like the psychological impact of that event. I don't think most of us can imagine anything even close to that, let alone on that level. So I think it kind of is a blend. Because remember, these people study psychology. They study human beings for a living. The media, when I took marketing and advertising, it was fascinating how the teacher in the books and the textbooks just so nonchalantly were like, yeah, they have specialists that they pay to study people to see what stokes fear, what stokes this emotion and that emotion. I'm like, bro, you're selling cookies. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have scientists and psychologists that actually are studying this stuff to figure out how to get me to buy a $2 bag of cookies. Yeah, it's a real science, right? So
Yeah,
please.
you know what clued me into that? My first job out of college was I was a retail manager for
Mhm.
one of the Stern Federated stores. So as a beautiful sales retail manager, you need to go through these sales trainings. And like every single time you got new merchandise, you were required to just switch everything around, move the new stuff to the front, and then fast forward, my sister and I have the metaphysical business, and I'm starting to, and then you start understanding like elements of feng shui, or just, hey,
Mhm.
a brand new thing comes in, it's brand new energy moving it around, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then you start understanding colors and
Mhm.
how they're using colors purposefully
Yeah.
as well to emit a mood, to or how they design the setup so that the fragrance are is what greets you,
Mhm.
right? So that you could sort of stay and just sort of like be mystified. Or even in a grocery store, the flowers greet you first. Like you start
Yeah.
to realize, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
always been in front of my face.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a whole science. It's a whole world that's happening underneath the world that like I said before, that's why we got to this point. Like, yeah, we've been allowing these people to rule. I'm talking about human beings. When we think about how much of our freedom and our liberties have been given away. I was just engaging people online, and this is one of the reasons why I dip in and dip out of social media, because the frequency is just so low. It is just mind numbing to me. But I'm watching and observing people now, and it's like there is a world happening in front of us that we can see, right? But then there's like this whole dark kind of, I don't even think I've properly found the words for it, and that's frustrating for me as a writer, and always trying to be clear when I express myself. Um, the Bible, for instance, and all of the scriptures, the Quran, darkness and light, right? The jinn, Satan, the devil, right? Set in the Kemetic mystery system. All these different reflections of evil and negativity, right? That we always, was either a character in a movie, or, so and so robbed and killed somebody on the news, or, way over in Afghanistan, somebody blew up a building, right? I'm starting to see that frequency in people I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I had a conversation with my son yesterday that literally it was I'm still kind of calming down today about, because he's up in the Bay Area with my family, and he was like telling me basically that people in our family have been pressuring him to take the you know what.
Wow.
I'm sorry, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then he's telling me that he's like, I didn't want to tell you, mom, because da 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 da. These are people that I love. That are my son's 18. An 18-year-old has such an insignificant chance of getting sick, let alone dying, right? And now you are pressuring my child, not a child, man child now. So all last night up until today, right? I've been meditating and processing this. Like, so that's enemy energy to me. You know what I'm saying? That's
I'm
enemy
sorry. I'm
energy.
not laughing because I really think it's funny. It just reminded me of a little mini confrontation I had with my mother yesterday
So,
around
and
this conversation.
listen, I had a conversation with my homegirl in Oklahoma City a couple of weeks ago, and she's like, "My grandmother is stressed. She had to lie to her grandmother. She had to, you know what I'm saying?" And I'm like, "You lied to your family? Like, you gotta." But so when my son came to me with this yesterday, I was like, "Oh, you know what I mean?" So it's a frequency and an energy that is attaching itself to people, right? But you already have to be fertile ground for that frequency to attach onto you, right? So you know what I mean? You're not in a righteous space, living high vibration and righteous, and then all of a sudden you turn overnight. No, this momentum, this energy, this way of thinking has been slowly but surely building itself up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm saying all of that to say that now, as I'm moving about in the world, there's this thing called non-playable characters, right? one of my YouTube followers mentioned this to me, and now I've heard it multiple times in different videos where all these people that we see, almost 8 billion people in the world, a lot of these people that are around us, I go to the beach almost every day, grocery store, whatever, gym, are non-playable characters. And when I say non-playable characters, if you think about a video game, right? There's the main character. There's whoever is the co-character. There's, if you play it online, there's a few other people that you guys are engaging. But most of the people in the game are non-playable characters. They don't have anything to do with the main story script. They're just walking down the street or walking their dog or riding their bike, right? But they are not active in the reality of the game and how with the decisions that are being made. They're not active at all. And I've realized that most of the people in the world, including people in my family that I know and love, are non-playable characters. You know what I'm saying? And that's a hard pill to swallow. You know what I'm saying? So and that's the difficult part of it, right? As you're processing it. Now, in the bigger scheme of things, I'd rather not be a non-playable character.
Right.
I'd rather be who I am, right? I'd rather have to confront the darkness, so to speak. I'd rather be light than darkness. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking the blue pill every time, right? The blue pill is the one you take I'm taking the blue pill every time, right? But most people, they're going to take the red pill, and if they take the blue pill, they're going to regret taking the blue pill and wish, you know what I'm saying? So,
this brings up so many different things, right? A couple of anecdotes. Just because I mentioned my mother, I feel like I want to be respectful and mention why.
yes.
We were not arguing. It's just that my mom, I grew up traditionally Catholic, and uh, the Pope the other day, and again, for the community who's tuning in, uh, this is not meant to insult anyone, but this is sort of like where we are in today's day. When you have someone who's the leader of a church like the Catholic Pope say that it is, using the the fact that you might be a part of the Catholic community as an access point to guilt you into getting the jab, I think that that is a sin.
Yeah.
I think that, especially when he's not a doctor, like it doesn't. There's so many layers of hypocrisy just there that I really don't want to just open another can of worms. But I made a little video, and I'm like, I don't care, just by the intention of just a singular person just saying it out there and putting this information out into the algorithm. And I said, I'm publicly denouncing you. I
Mm,
renounce you. And
mm,
I said that to my mother, and this is where we got into it. She was really, really insulted. Like, how
mm,
dare you? Like, she looked so hurt that she was like, how dare you insult the leader of the church like that? And I
mm.
said to her, which is sort of kind of something you were alluding to a few minutes ago, I'm like, someone who's promoting something that they don't understand right now is standing to me on almost enemy grounds. And never in my life have I ever spoken like that, Zaza. I am
Yeah.
not a woman who fights with people. I've never gotten into a fight with another woman, for example. There have been some self-defense situations in my past, but that's a different story. But like, this is not in my DNA. I'm maybe just a warrior, mouthy kind of woman, but not someone who's really gonna start to fight and use words carelessly. But I really do feel like this is where we're at, and the, 2020, like, I mean, I know that this has been going on for so long, but the amplification of it all and the many layers of simultaneous division tactics that
Mm.
have been bombarded onto us. I do not know how humans are walking around right now, in a sense, because I know many of them that are just, they feel battered.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I wanted to sort of get your insight on what you have been seeing from that perspective.
Well, first of all, if I was in your presence, I would probably, you know what I mean, do some sort of graceful yoga salutation in recognition and in honor of your bravery and your courage for speaking truth from your spirit, right? Without having to qualify it. Because most people qualify it. They'll have a thought in their mind, right? And then they'll go to work and then remember that they got a boss. And then mom will call and they'll remember that mom's a Catholic, or they'll, you know what I'm saying? Like most people aren't really living in truth. They're assessing the world and then figuring out how much truth they can take and how much truth they can give, if any, right? So, and of course, based on what I know about you, and our interactions and what I see of you online, I really, really, really need to emphasize and underscore how important you taking that stand for yourself, but not only for you, for, I don't want to,
Oh, the algorithm didn't like this conversation. We've been
yeah,
frozen. Hello? Okay. Oh, you're back.
you see,
I see you.
okay, I
The
don't know
algorithm
why.
did it. The algorithm did not like us talking about the Papa. El Papa.
Well, I want to say something nice to the algorithm, but I will, you know what I mean? And please understand, people, when she says that, that's not like a tongue in cheek thing. Like, no, we're dealing with another dimension of consciousness now when we start talking about artificial intelligence, right? So I've seen people online bragging like, yeah, the white man's trying to take me down. They shut my Facebook channel down. No, you said like two or three keywords that got you picked up. You know what I mean? And the computer said, "Now we're gonna sit you down for a minute." Like, there's a whole nother game being played on another level that, as far as technology is concerned, that we're not conscientious of. But um, when you talk about, this particular person that's supposed to be, and this, the spiritual war, and how I talked about destroying and rebuilding, all of this reality of people ruling over us, of having to go through another human being to get to God, right? And religion has been one of the, the opiate for the masses, right? I feel like the religious community and the spiritual has a community has completely failed humanity, all of them, because there's no way that we could get to this point. You could talk about the statistics of the people that have taken the shot, the numbers, right? The data, that's one part of it. But I just posted a video on my Instagram of Australia and the savage, wicked agenda that's taking place there, right? And the world is just kind of like doo, 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 doo,
Yeah,
right?
we're dancing, and I mean, I'm not
And doing crate
negatively.
challenges. I mean,
Yes, I mean, and I'm not. I love to dance. You guys know that I'm a movement coach, but I'm like, when I started to see all these videos of doctors and nurses dancing in the beginning of 2020, I'm sorry, I have to say that my little brain was like, this feels like I'm seeing rituals.
yes. And you know, it, I feel like sometimes when we have to say, I like to have fun, I want to dance. Like, listen, if ever there was a time to be serious, if ever there was a time to be focused, it would be now, right? Sometimes I hear myself talking and I hear it's when I'm having the conversations inside of myself, it's like, is this really real? Am I really talking to this woman about crate challenges while at the same time watching little girls in Australia be like taken by guards and put in a truck and taken from her family, kicking and screaming? Can this really possibly be real, right? So let me just get back to
Well,
our
Zaza,
point.
this is what people respond. This has been one of the common NYC responses. I'm sorry, I'm just like starting my day. I'm like really stressed. Can you like not talk about that? Oh,
Yeah,
do you know when this happened? A few days ago when Mr. De Blasio announced his beautiful mandate of the passaporte to the world. And I said, I'm going to call my congresswoman. And I called Congresswoman Velasquez's office. And do you know the lady who picked up the phone was like, she was more interested in finding out my address than to figure out what my grievance was. And
yeah.
then when when I was trying to figure out, I was like, I just want to know where the congresswoman stands on what the mayor just said. Her response to me was, "Ma, it's Monday. We're just sort of kind of getting into the office. Like if I was disturbing her, this is the state of a lot of our local elected officials. They're just putting out fires, maybe getting distracted by, I don't even know, I don't understand how it works, because a lot of people say get into politics, but when you start understanding how politics is moving, you understand that it's sort of like a webbing. People get stuck like in a web of some sort, and you're
Yeah.
and then you're sort of like getting in because of relationships are supporting you, and all of a sudden you owe this one a favor, and all of a sudden you
Right.
don't want to do that favor, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're compromised. And so it's kind of difficult for anyone who's watching the news, who's understanding it, or who's living some of it in some way, to speak with extreme knowing, because you don't know. It's
Yeah.
like we're figuring this out, and some of the ways we figure things out is having conversations like the one Zaza and I are having, because it's, I would dare say, we're having a multidimensional conversation,
For sure.
right? Like we can feel, and the audience who's tuning in, you can feel it. You can
Yeah.
feel when it's real. You can feel when it's authentic. You can feel when someone's talking crap.
Yeah. I let me say this, and yes, this is a multidimensional conversation, right? And we could kind of expound on that, but I want to go back to your point, just kind of underscoring this thing about religion and the Pope, right? And I'm not an anti-religious person. Like, let me be clear
Right,
about
me
that.
either.
I support people, whatever makes you fly. You know what I mean? Whatever gets you through it, whatever. So I'm not an anti-religious person. But at the same time, I do understand, there is a religion can be approached and expressed through your higher self or your lower self, as with everything, right? So there's major wickedness. I mean, just the fact that the Catholic Church has gone through so much over the last 30 years with pedophilia, right? So now all of a sudden you're coming forward and actually, you don't have any credibility to me. Just being honest, right? But God does not have to give you trinkets. God does not have to guilt or shame you. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's going to be right for you, that's going to serve you well, that's going to be a good thing for you, is not going to be implemented through a shotgun. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the thing that I really am looking at people like, bro, you do realize there's a gun pointed at the world right now. Like nuclear weapons, proverbial, of course, pointed at the whole entire world right now. Now they're talking boosters and so whatever favor you feel like you've got. Most of the people that are taking it are only taking it because they want to get back to some normalcy.
Right.
They'll tell you they're afraid of getting sick. And yes, there's the fear factor. But a lot of these people, especially that I've talked to, it's like I got it because my job was pressuring me, or because I wanted to go to, Morocco, right? But now you're gonna have to get it again in 6 months, or you're gonna lose all the things that you got it for in the first place, right? So, but I want to hone in on this point about, for everybody listening to me, whatever's good for you is not good. It's going to affect you in a righteous way. It's going to affect the people around you in a righteous way, right? The fact that people are like really trying to pressure their family members and shame them into doing this, that's not godly.
Mm-mm.
Where's that in the Bible? Where's that?
Well, there's no life there. My most basic memories of just thinking about the Bible and parables is like, hey, God knocks, but he's not gonna enter unless you invite him in,
One
or
hundred
her, or
percent.
however. And again, I know people get so sensitive. I'm using God and him and her, like I'm just sort of like using them interchangeably. It's a recognition that there is a higher, beautiful connection that we're a part of, but that there's breath there, right? Which is one of the main reasons I refuse to wear diapers on my face, especially when I was outside, because it's like when you give yourself to this life, as Saza has, and as my sister has, and myself, in our ways, right? You're sort of always waking up and intending to, not to be perfect, but just be the best self you can with how you feel in that moment, to be as natural as possible. And you start understanding that these emotions, right, like guilt, that where is that on the frequency scale?
Right. at the bottom, next to fear, next to hatred, next to self doubt and low self esteem. I mean, it's and this is what's so fascinating, right? Because we can prove everything we're talking about. We can prove it scientifically, we can prove it biologically, we can prove it psychologically, right? So the mass fear campaign, right, is keeping humanity locked in a certain space, right? So again, priming you for that spirit and that energy. You know what I'm saying? That will make you turn up against somebody in your own family. For a stranger, you're never going to meet the Pope. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about your mother specifically. I'm making a broader statement here, right? You're never going to meet Obama. You're never going to meet Trump. Biden doesn't give a damn about you. Like, you turning up all these wicked demons and devils that you can't even see through, first of all. But that's neither here nor there. You don't know this dude. He don't know you. You can't get him to do anything for you. I've been here your whole entire life. Loyal, family, love, trust, bonding, all of that. And you threw all of that away in the course of how much time? Right? To your point.
Very quickly. It was like it's
Oh,
almost
it's
like
overnight.
have I known you my whole life, because you
That's what I'm
just automatically in less than 30 seconds just betrayed me in ways that I don't even know if I can accept you back into my
overnight.
life.
Oh, for real, for real. That's how you know it's been a momentum. It's been a gradual trajectory, right?
Hmm.
It didn't start in that moment.
Right.
It's been a trajectory. So CNN has been planting seeds for 10, 15 years, right? MSNBC, Fox News, New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times. They've all been planting seeds. The movies, like I said
Hmm.
in my live that I did, the Matrix 2021, the movies have been their vision board, and they've been implanting zombies and apocalypse and the purge, and you know what I'm saying, take the shot or you're going to die. They've been implanting this subconsciously for 20, 30 years, right? But to your original point, and this is something I say all the time, the hardest job in the world is maintaining frequency. I used to say it was being a mom, and that's running a close second, but the hardest job in the world is to maintain frequency, especially when you walk outside and see somebody. I in my complex, I see people walking their dogs with masks on. You're at home, first of all. You got on slippers, bruh. So I clearly sanitation is not really a big deal for you, right? But you have on a mask. There's nobody in a 20-foot radius. Who are you afraid of, right? So, I've been having to watch myself because I see people, and internally I'm like, you stupid. You know what I'm saying? In my mind, but then I'll catch myself and be like, just breathe, Zah. You know what I'm saying? Just because we got to maintain frequency. I got to
I
make
hear you. I totally get it. Like, I would have meltdowns in my mind when I would see somebody driving by themselves.
with a mask on. It is the most. I saw somebody today, and she had her windows up. She was in a Prius, and I was in traffic, so I just kept looking at her. Maybe she'll see me and she'll feel the spirit and remember she needs to breathe to live. You know what I'm saying? But so maintaining frequency, right? Being able to walk in the world and not be affected in a negative way, whether it's, the news, whether it's on the subway, whether it's at the beach, like wherever. Before 2020, let alone now, it's the hardest job in the world, right? So you take some time and you meditate and you fast and you do whatever it is that makes you feel alive, and you get in a good rhythm. You got your books going, you got your, you know what I'm saying, life is going in a good rhythm. You finally starting to figure it out. Everything feels good, the thoughts are clear, the feeling is good. And then you talk to your son and find out that somebody in your family has been trying to pressure him to take something that I have actually been researching for not 20 years, 15 years. People in my family have this book, probably never actually cracked it open, right? So maintaining frequency in the midst of all of that. What is maintaining frequency? Your frequency is how you think, how you feel, how you breathe, how you eat, and how you live, how
Mm-hmm.
you think, how you feel, how you breathe, how you eat, and how you live, right? So I can handle all of those things. I can be on top of that and still go out into the world and run into some madness that will knock all of that I've been working on for the past 2 months off the table. And now I got to start back from scratch again. First, I got to calm myself down and keep myself from punching somebody in the throat, right? Then I gotta then I gotta reassess. Then I gotta reanalyze, right? Then I gotta get out of my own head. Then I gotta relax my jaws, the tension in my face. I'm feeling it now because I'm having a adverse reaction to this conversation that I had last night, right? But it's the hardest thing in the world to maintain frequency. But it is the most rewarding thing in the world once we get the science of it down. So
That's what. Thank you. That was an awesome response. And yeah, I mean, even going back to this whole, somebody like the leader of the church, of any church saying that, right? Like, just at a quick glance, because I know we're getting close to the hour and I want to be respectful of your time. At a quick glance, just things that we've just been hearing as highlights, right? We've seen in the news that leaders from different parts of the world that did speak or questioned the validity of what was happening, or some of them, I believe the president of Tanzania, who unfortunately is no longer with us, and he had a questionable, like, a lot of people have had questionable, like, transitions, if we were to put it that way. And when you
that's a nice way of saying it.
and when you and why are they questionable transitions, is that some of the common things that they had in common is that they were actually questioning what we're going through, or they were questioning the process of healing, the healing methods. Why aren't we talking about more natural things, right? Why aren't we talking about health? And as you've mentioned, it's not like these hints have not been around for years. Like, a hint that I think is very crystal for me is when you would hear of people getting fined or getting their yards ripped apart because they were growing produce that was not up to code in their little town or a little vicinity. And you're like, why would you, like, destroy somebody who's growing something in their yard or their
Yeah.
garden in their private space? Or you hear stories around the world of anything that's natural, right? Like, how can we forget the slew of holistic doctors that are no longer with us, who have also made questionable transitions? So there has been this thing, almost like a war against what is natural, a war against what feels organic, and almost like a war, like, making humans feel like we're worthless pieces of crap, and we're not. We're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the president of Tanzania, if I remember correctly, he's the one that they tested they did the test, right? The nostril test, the Trojan horse, which is what the test is. Um, he did a test on kiwi and I think a papaya, and I don't quote me on that. It was fruit, and I think it was one animal. No, it was fruit, two different types of fruit, and they both came back positive, right? So that's when he, you know what I mean, came up on the radar. And he had his medical, they had a whole laboratory. It was all done the medically precise way, and they filmed everything. They also had a group of scientists in Italy that did the same thing, that tested maybe a kiwi, some form of fruit, some oblivious form of fruit, right? And the test came back positive. So, you know, here's the thing that you said that's something for us to ponder, right? When you talked about, um, um, well, I want to talk about the food shortage, right? Because this is the catch 22 of the metaphysics world and then the reality, right? We have to be careful. I've been hearing people that have, conspiracy theorists, so to speak, that have been, talking about this, but have also been like, we got to prep. They're coming for us. You know what I'm saying? Get your guns and, all of that. We have to be balanced because the people that are in power know that all you really have to do is get people to believe. Once you get them to believe, the universe will conspire to bring their belief into reality, right? So, and I was having a conversation earlier today, and I was talking about the skill and the strategy of it all. Like there's a whole audience that called it all a hoax, right? None of it's real. They haven't isolated the what. It's never been proven. There's that whole crowd, but they are not metaphysically correct. Because if you can get 5 billion people to believe anything, it will come to be. If you can get one person to believe anything, it will come to be. Like I remember our last interview when I was talking about crystals. And I said to a person that believes in the power and the intention of a crystal, it can be a life saving or a life affirming stone. But to somebody that doesn't believe, it's just a rock. But the fact that you believe that it has the powers is what actually invigorates the actual powers, right? So this is why when I've been stepping back and looking at this whole thing and knowing how powerful human beings are, knowing what we are capable of. I mean, me just sitting here right now, my heart electromagnetic field is radiating and having ripples in this entire room. If you were here with me, we'd be having a data transfer, right? On an energetic data transfer just by sitting with one another, because I'm going to feel the energetic resonance of your heart and the energy that's coming from you. And depending on where you are in your mind, oh my God, I'm in New York. I'm stressed out. It's chaotic. I just had a fight with my mom. The world is going to hell. That's going to affect me in a certain type of way, depending on my frequency. Or if you're, I don't wear masks. I'm trouble free. I don't know what's going on with y'all over there. I haven't gotten sick. I take my herbs. I get sunshine. You know what I'm saying? That's going to resonate and emanate a different type of frequency to me, right? So if the people that are in power that are behind this wicked, satanic, devilish, low vibrational, I mean, just the level of savagery and evil and wickedness taking place on this planet right now is astounding to me, and how people don't even perceive it.
They don't see it.
I'm
It's
a woman.
the
If I,
brevity right in your
yes,
face.
I'm a woman. If I'm walking down the street in New York, and I've been to New York several times, you know what I'm saying? And depending on where you are, you can be happy and free flowing and free, and in other places it's like, you might want to
Yes.
pull your bag a little closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm in certain environments, I know where I can be relaxed, and I'm in certain environments where I know I got to be on my guard. I tell my son that all the time. Pay attention to your surroundings, right? So, how could you, human beings, with the brains that you have? The brain is one of the most fantastic mechanisms. Like, if you really understand how your brain's operating, right? The brain. Then you've got the whole neurological system that's connected to your eyeballs and your nose and your mouth. That's your spinal cord is affecting how your hands move, how you walk, right? I'm sitting here doing all this, right? I talk with my hands open, right? I'm from the hood. I'm doing all this. My brain is not telling my hands when to move. My mind isn't saying tilt your head to the left, tilt your head to the right, move in closer to the camera, right? All of these miracles are happening right now as I'm sitting here talking to you without me even having to be consciously involved, right? The immune system, the antibodies, and the way the immune system works. If I run into somebody tomorrow and they sneeze on me, and a virus tries to infiltrate my body, I have soldiers in my body that sit up. Wait a minute, who is that? What's your business here? Oh, okay, okay. So no, we're not doing that. Oh, you got to, okay, come on, y'all. Let's. My immune system is doing this without me ever even having to do anything, and that is happening in a crackhead's body, let alone somebody that is eating organic, fasting, meditating, taking care of themselves, right? And that's just like the tip of the iceberg when we could break down the analytics of the human being, right? How did you go from being this monumental, beautiful mechanism of miracles every day, all the time, to asking somebody else for freedom?
Oh heck no.
I don't have to ask anybody for freedom. I don't have to ask you for permission to do anything. What I can do is just sit it out. What I can, I'm not. You telling me I can't fly to Africa? You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. Could I kick up dust and try to go get lawyers? And yeah, but do I want to go to Africa or to Greece or to Bali and be surrounded by a bunch of people that might be potentially shedding something that could affect me in a negative way? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? So the shrines in Bali have lost their spiritual power. Why? Because their government has submitted to a satanic agenda. When the government steps down, all of those temples and all of the power and the beauty and the lusciousness of Bali will regenerate itself and will come back into force, I'm assuming, right? But for right now, the spiritual prowess that we know of as Bali, that we know of as Kemet, that we know of as Machu Picchu, right? Once you start to separate human beings, we are nature.
Right.
It's not nature out there. It's nature in here, right? So I am a part of the trees and the star system, air, all of that. So once you separate me from the land, you're taking the energetic focus, the most powerful beings on this planet, you're removing them from the natural elements, which is neutralizing the power that all of those places have. I think I feel like I got way off subject.
No, I mean, none at all because well, first of all, I know someone who we used to be a, you know, like when you are part of circles and you keep seeing the same people, that this person left Bali for that very reason that you just said. Very
Yeah,
heartbroken, very sad, recognizing that he had an opportunity to, was able to leave while people there are not having that opportunity.
yeah,
But destroyed, probably very heartbroken because you see what is beyond a symbol, a way of life, a connection with people who are so connected to the land, and then this is happening right here. Like it to me, it's like, how can it not be any clearer that on so many levels we are having this sort of like spiritual war of sorts. I
yeah.
remember I don't know if it was last year or the year before that, there was this little controversy. I mean, there's always controversy in politics, isn't there? But there was this particular thing that caught my attention, and it was in the Bronx, and maybe some of you might know. But one of the politicians started saying that Satanism had creeped in to some of the way of politics, and
Mhm.
he got so hammered by his comment. I'm pretty sure he got hammered by his comment because it was followed by other comments, but I'm just focusing on that specific thing that he said. I mean, people can feel when you are working, when you're working on anything that's like with a group, if it's something that's going to breathe life, you'll feel it. If it's something that's taking that away from you, you'll see it,
Yeah.
and you can see it in the faces of people. The people who have who wear this all of the time,
Mhm.
some of them are having a lot of anxiety problems. Or they're feeling very nervous about interacting with other human beings, and it's just really like I'm very compassionate for it because I mean, like I don't know, I really don't know. I feel very sad that so many of our brothers and sisters are accepting this separation. Oh, you don't have the V, then you are all of a sudden anything. If you want to breathe fresh air, that puts you in certain political categories.
I mean, the
That's how
absurdity of it
crazy it
all.
is. That's how crazy it is.
As I'm listening to
Oh!
you,
Zaza wants to breathe fresh air. That I'm gonna put her in this category, in that category, and it could, I could be summing you up completely wrong.
as I'm listening to you, it's like, is this really happening? Are we really?
Are
Is
we
this?
really having this conversation? This is we have a couple of comments. This woman who says, Chris, she says, I remember walking my dog during the whole pandemic at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and another lady was upset because she had this, and she started getting yelled at from across the street at 2 o'clock in the morning from a lady who was like, "Put
Oh
on
my
your the Pampers
God.
in your face."
I mean, I just, the spiritual war. Let this. I was in Trader Joe's earlier today, right? And I was having this thought because I keep saying, "How did we get here?" And I know how we got here, but I'm still the scientist in me needs the Scorpio in me needs. I need something to grab on to make sense, and it's a losing cause at this point, but still. So I'm in Trader Joe's and I'm looking for whatever I'm looking for, and I'm thinking to myself, 90%, and Trader Joe's probably is not as bad, but just for the point, to make the point, 90% of the things that are in the grocery store are bad for you. 90%. We've been
Mm-hmm.
all this time. They've been poisoning our water. They've been poisoning our air. They have been, I mean, just I saw the meme online about the FDA and all the stuff that they approve, right? That's floating around now, and like red dye, yellow dye, all this stuff that's in the stuff that our children eat all the time without even thinking about it, right? We've just been moseying along, playing small, being ruled,
Mm-hmm.
paying taxes, working 9 to 5s, living these mundane, regular, average, non playable character lives, right? But we have the access to the energy that creates worlds. I remember when I used to read the Bible, and it would talk about God being jealous, right? These emotions that God is supposedly expressing, right? And I always used to be like that. Why would God need to be jealous? Why would
Mm-hmm.
God need to care if I swig a Jack Daniels or you know what I'm saying? Have a whole face. And pardon me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've never had a whole face. Proudly, I say that. I only say that because I was having another conversation the other day about women. All women need to have a whole face. What? Not if you're a queen. But anyway, so let me come back. Okay, so we're I can see now, not a God sitting on a cloud in the sky judging, but just the evolution of the species, so to speak, right? I could see how a God or the gods, maybe not jealous like you get mad and bust your boyfriend's window out his car because you find out he's with another woman, but
Not a
jealous like
Beyonce video.
yeah, 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 exactly. Or police, Lord. I can see why God would be offended. I can see why God would feel disrespected. A pope said what? And you're supposed to be leading my sheep, the flock? I could see why God would be offended. I gave you everything. They gave you nothing. So the judgment, that's the judgment. I gave you everything. They gave you nothing. You can't tell me I can't fly to Africa. This is my planet.
Mm-hmm.
I might have stipulations because I got to go through your system to get there because I don't own a plane, because I don't know how to fly. You don't have the power to tell me where I can or cannot go. You don't have the power to tell me when to leave my house. You don't have the power to tell me what to put on my face. But look at how human beings are walking around. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Tell
And
me
with
where to go and
pride.
I'll go.
And they're doing it with so much pride. I mean, I would probably be a very wealthy woman for all the times community members would suggest that it would be a great action for me to wear diapers on my face. That if I'm really, I mean, one of the biggest insults, Saza, was like, "Oh, you're such you claim to be such a community oriented serviceable person, but da 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 da, like you're not even engaging in responsible behavior. You're putting my life at risk and my
So
grandmother's
let's
life at
let's talk
risk,
about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
all the
the
people that are being put at risk by the anti
I mean, not.
refuser.
I mean, what you're doing to yourself when you wear it. First of all, they are not protecting you in any way. The OSHA specialists have said it. The doctors and the surgeons that wear them only for a specific time, because you're only supposed to wear them for short intervals, have
Mm-hmm.
said it. The scientists have said it. But I didn't need any of them to say it for me to know. I take my breath seriously. So when you breathe in, you're breathing in oxygen, right? That oxygen is going up through your nostrils. It is going through a filtration process. Your nose hairs are actually separating the dust and all the dirt particles, right? That's why we have to blow our nose. That's why we get mucus, etc. So it's going in through your nose. It's going through that filtration process. So the oxygen that actually makes it into your brain and then into your body is actually clean, good oxygen, right? It's supposed to be. That process is cleaning your bloodstream. So when you take a deep breath of fresh oxygen in, that is going into your blood system and taking the impurities that are mangled in your body and mangled in your blood system. And when you breathe out through your mouth, you're pushing all of those toxins and those impurities out. So when you wear a mat, when you wear a face covering,
A
when
diaper.
you when you breathe in, you're not breathing in fresh, clean oxygen. You're breathing in whatever the particles are in this apparatus, right? And it's not clean air. It's the air that you've already expressed, right? So it's already dirty because it came out of your mouth or out of your nose, right? So it's already toxic, needs to go out of your system. Now you're taking it back in your system, recycling it, circulating all of those toxins that your body is trying desperately to get rid of, breathing it in, breathing it back out, breathing it back in. So when it goes back in, it's twice as dirty as it was during the first breath. Breathing it in, breathe it back out. When it comes back in, it's 3 times as dirty as it was out. 4, 5, right? Now do that for 8 hours. You see what I'm saying? And so now your brain is foggy, you're forgetting things. You're not quick on your feet. You're not witty like you used to be. You're doing work for your business or at your job or at school, and the answers aren't coming quick enough. And you're like, I got brain fog. I don't know what's going on. So let me tell you, just real life, right? Because I think I know sometimes people forget I'm a real human being, right? That I have real life. I'm in this world, right? So my son was accepted at 6 college. He got accepted to all the schools that he got that he applied to, right? We settled on Georgia State because Georgia State had, they don't have mandates. First of all, that's first and foremost for me. They didn't have mandates. Fast forward, I find out that they're doing the shots on scene, which was a problem to me because if you understand the science and some of the things that have been revealed, the people that have taken it are transmitting and radiating something that is happening to people around them that have not taken it. And I've seen videos and I've seen pictures, even though the censoring of this particular thing is so heavy online, but I follow certain people that are in the know, right? So I've seen videos of babies passing BLOOD, CLOTS. I've seen grown women and young women, right? Passing, not like, your cycle type, right? But no, like something's very, very wrong, right? Just expelling from the body, right? These are people that didn't that didn't say yes, right? The young people, women in particular, we don't even really know what's happening to men and to boys
Yeah,
because
people
the
are
way
simply
women,
shedding.
yeah, we women, our bodies tell us we have to be in tune with our bodies, right? So my son, so now I'm like, I've always been very big on education. College is not an option unless you have a better plan, right? That was always from the jump. Not because I am, engulfed in the system, but because I believe in education. I believe in intellectualism, right? And college is like a guardrail, right? For you to go out and figure out life. So once I find out that they're doing them on site, started talking to my son. So I had to talk to him because obviously I've placed education so high on the bar, and now you're telling me that I don't have to do that. So now I got to answer to all these people. Everybody thinks I'm going to Georgia State. So fast forward. So we
Wow.
have the conversation. Let's just do a local community college, right? So you stay close, right? I can, if I need to get in my car and get to you, I can. Come to find out, the community college up in the Bay Area is doing the same thing. And they have mandates. So if you're going to sit in a class, you're going to have your face covered, right? So I grappled with that. And finally, my son and I had a conversation a couple of days ago because and I just was like, you know what? Let's just take a year off. Let's just take a year off. You can, he's got a job. He's doing well. He's got his music and stuff going. He's inspired about stuff. But I don't want the psychological trauma of my son being in that environment. And I had to really walk myself back because it was like, why is this such a big issue? Because what everybody's going to think. Because what the family's going to say. Oh, you're not in college? What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying all of that to say that my son has been getting pressure from people, grown-ups, that have no idea what the hell is actually going on. And I had to tell him that. Would you rather be in her shoes? Would you rather not know, or would you rather know? You're armed with information. You're living your life to become a king. These people have never been around a real king.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they don't know what that looks like, right? But the spiritual war aspect of what you're talking about, this is the war. Every day, when your family is beating down on you, when your job is threatening your livelihood, when everybody on social media is going in one direction and you feel every comment you read is going in a direction that you're not going in, it starts to make you question yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the spiritual war. That's the jihad that the Muslims think have totally perverted, thinking that going out and blowing up bombs and buildings, which now that I think about it, when is the last time you saw a Palestinian strap a bomb to their back and blow up a building?
Right.
It's fascinating to me how these little wars start and stop. You know what I'm saying? Like they're on schedule,
Like,
right?
so fascinating.
To Afghanistan.
I mean, I want to say that I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you and your son to have had that conversation and go through the levels of even emotionality and 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 even and the reality too, because you're also having to face very quickly, like, a lot of people are in this boat. They have to make very quick decisions, and I know that there are people who are listening right now that may be in similar circumstances, like people who have kids in the military. They're getting mandated, right, these situations. And here's, like,
Can I,
my
can
little.
I say something real quick?
Sure, of course.
Because I had a friend, and she helped me to process the decision that both me and my son made. I wasn't going to force him to do anything, but I knew what the outcome was going to be. But she had a son who was there in New York at a fine arts school. She said that they were all, apparently a student from another school came to the school and eventually tested positive, right? So they put his whole entire class on lockdown for 10 days straight. He could not be around anybody. He could not have any physical contact with any of the people in his school. He was locked in a dorm, which is probably like the size of an office space. Locked in his dorm. He could not leave to go buy food. This is in New York. This is in America. This was last year. This was earlier this year, matter of fact. He wasn't sick. He didn't do anything except do what he was supposed to do. And they put her son on a 10-day lockdown where he could not interact with other human beings. And I'm processing this and knowing there is a potential that that could be my son. Oh, no. No. Mm-mm. There's nothing that fantastic about the school system and the educational system in America, or anything that my son can't do without that system that would warrant me putting him. I feel like that's abuse. I feel like that's abuse to make a child, let alone my son's a young adult, but a child. It is abuse to make a child sit in a classroom with that on. It is abuse to send a child off onto the playground with that on, and they're exuding high levels of energy. They're breathing heavy. So the lungs are kicking in overdrive. Everything about the body, when you are expressing metabolism and energy, everything is working harder. The
Yeah.
brain's working harder. The body's working harder. The breath process is working harder. The lungs are functioning harder, right? And then you turn around. It is absolutely maddening what we are doing to these children. I cannot, if anybody that is listening to me right now, homeschool, you have to. And I'm not saying that, let's be realistic about this, right? Because I live in the real world. I'm not one of those people that's just like, you need to grow food and homeschool. I deal with the reality of what's on the ground, right? You need to put out an SOS and find other women and other men, parents in your community that are on the same wavelength as you. And it might be a Facebook post, it might be word of mouth, but in all actuality, all it really takes is focus and meditation and making it a part of your meditation. I'm not going to do this to my son or to my daughter. I'm asking the universe to guide me and help me attract the right type of people and the right type of references and resources so that I can keep my child out of harm's way. But you have to decide that that's what you're going to do before you even move on it. A lot of people are like, I'm getting like 10 messages a day, every day. I just got a mandate from our job. They're this and they're that. And I mean, like mad fear. And they don't want to take it, but they're kind of like, you know what I'm saying? No, decide what you're not going to do first.
Right.
I know what I'm not going to do. The universe is going to help me figure the rest out, but I know I'm not doing that. So get together, put the signal out, put the SOS out into the universe, and get together with other like-minded parents that are in your community. If you have 4 parents that are lock and step, that all have safe environments that are in alignment, it really won't be as difficult as you think it will. There's so many resources online. Khan Academy is a great resource for homeschoolers. You can go online. They have math tutorials, every from geometry to basic mathematics addition. They have such a full array of information, and there's other resources you can have as well. But if you have 4 or 5 parents that are on the same wavelength, you'll probably only end up having to do homeschooling 1 day out of the week, or maybe 2 hours out of the day. You know what I'm saying? And you've got the guy that does track and field or sports that can come and take them outside and run and play. And then you've got the one who's good at cooking, the woman who can teach home ec and how to make pancakes, right? And then, social studies. You don't have to have a degree in history. You can remember, go online. What's the normal history path for 7th graders? Okay, well, they're teaching this. I ain't teaching that. I'll take this. And then let me go pull in some cultural, some Native American history and some African history and some, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the time right now for sovereign thinking. This is the time now to think outside of the box. This world as we know it is dying.
It's leaving.
The
Going
capitalism,
away.
right? This is all I was thinking in Trader Joe's, like, damn, can I imagine where I can just come in a store and pay a fair price? I don't have to pay $2.50 for an avocado. I can pay a fair price for an organic avocado. You know what I'm saying? You make a little profit, but you don't make enough profit to rate me, right? I can get everything I need in a store. I don't have to be thinking about food shortages and all of that. Like, this is where we need to be in consciousness. Yes, be prepared. Yes, know what's happening. Yes, be aware. But we have to consciously create our reality and project into the future what we want to come from this. Because in my mind, Biden's not running the country. There's no government left. There's only people. Do we actually really think that the federal government is operating still?
That's oh God.
I know
I'm
you don't want
sorry.
to say it, so let me say it.
No.
The United States government, as we know it, your concept, Republican, Democratic, House of Representatives, Senate, the judicial system, the Supreme Court, the government system as we know it is not running this country. This government system in Israel is not running the country. The government system in Puerto Rico is not running the country. The government system in Africa, hit or miss depending on what, right? So now that we gotta pull the veil back and okay, we got that. Okay, we got that. We're processing all of this. But how do we want tomorrow to look?
Yeah.
I want you to be able to go wherever you want to go in New York, whenever you want to go, and do whatever you want to do, and not have to worry about all of that. That's freedom. That's sovereignty. So that's what I've been thinking about that. And even with the situation with school and my son, it's like, bro, I don't even know if the colleges and campuses are really going to be in 4 years. Are they still going to be giving out degrees? I don't know. I feel like
Yeah, so much is changing.
this next 3 years from 2022 to 2025, I think that I know what their agenda is. They have a 2025 marking post and they have a 2030 marking post. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to freak people out and I don't want to scare people. But I think that this 2022 to 2025, this next 3 years, the righteous ones among us, and when I say righteous, I'm not just saying only because you said no to the you know what. I'm talking about being in alignment and your frequency being in alignment with righteousness. How you're thinking, how you're feeling, how you're eating, how you're breathing, how you're living, right? That being, and your frequency being the currency of how you operate. Can you imagine if your vibration was so high that you could walk in Trader Joe's, and the higher your vibration is, the more your allotment for food is? The better you take care of yourself, the better access you have to healthcare. The better you take care of yourself, the better you're treated. Not to say we want anybody being treated badly, but you see what I'm saying. Frequency in this paradigm shift is going to be the new currency. It's going to
I
determine
believe that.
what doors you can get in, what doors you can't, right? So I'm just saying, I'm trying to drop a little bit of, yes, we got to deal with all of this madness, but let's start to really envision what the world that we can create without the Bill Gates and the Schwabs and the all of these demons that have been running our world for all this time. I'm of the mindset now, like, wow, what would the world look like if I could just get on a plane and go anywhere and didn't have to have a passport? What if I didn't have to go to DMV to re-register my car? Because why do I need to pay y'all anyway? Why am I paying 11% tax when I buy a banana? So yeah,
I mean, I have to say that my heart does feel hopeful. It just feels like we have to somewhat, we're going to have to get through some really chunky times that seem to be ahead. And I hope that I'm wrong, but so far, the pattern that we're seeing seems to indicate that we might be in for some more challenging times.
we are.
At the same time, I feel that people, like-minded people who have been doing their work, and are ready to I don't want to, I don't want this to sound hokey. I don't mean like they're ready to just do the work as like beings in the world, but I mean like do the work like, oh, what's my need here? Oh, my community needs me for this. Oh, I have this skill set. I know how to teach this. I'm gonna be helpful to this little community over here. Like, I think that's the way to look at it. Like, how can I do something on a local level within my community and be impactful there.
Yeah.
These are really interesting times. And Saza, this has been such an amazing conversation. I'm wondering if you have anything that you would like to share that we didn't cover as we start winding down our conversation today.
There are some dark days ahead, and I don't want to sugarcoat it, and I don't want to. I'm on my post, and when I say I'm on my post, this is my job. You know what I'm saying? Like what I'm doing, this interview, my books, my research, everything that I do. This is actually my job. I'm not talking about income producing. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying like, no, this is my job and my work while I'm here to research this information, to express what I've researched, but to also, destroy, right? Put the information out there that destroys, systems, so to speak. But then also, like I was just talking about, creating a new world and a new state of awareness and consciousness, right? Building a new world. The darkness and the light, so to speak, that this spiritual war, this is not new. You know what I mean? Like this This war and this dance has been going on since the beginning of time. It expresses itself through humanity. It expresses itself through nature. It expresses itself through, different states of consciousness or frequencies, right? Some people call, other spiritual entities or whatnot. But this war that we're in is not new. The difference is the time for this world as we know it is up, which means that there is something coming on the other side of this. But unfortunately, because humanity is so wayward and so off track, there's going to have to be a purge in order for us to get to this next dimension or stage of consciousness, so to speak. And it's already happening. The statistics of people that have actually passed away from the what, the numbers are scary. The real numbers, not the numbers. If you go on Google and say, what's the number of people that have died from the what, you're going to get several different, you're going to get pushed into several different, it's going to be hard to find the tally, right? But I know what the number is, and I know what the lowest potential number is, and I know what the highest potential number is. And it's very scary.
And
What
just
I am,
to be clear, are you referring to the
not the
sickness or
virus.
the this situation?
Yes,
The
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 jab.
stabbings of sorts.
Yes, people are dying at an astronomical rate, and that's only America. If you look around the world, and of course they have different, different companies producing different jabs in right. They're not giving people in Europe the same people they're giving America. They're not giving people in Africa the same thing they're giving people in South America, which in itself, to a logical person, well,
Yeah.
if everybody's getting the same thing, why is there all these different variations? And why'd you change the ingredients in Africa? Why'd you change you see what I'm saying? But um, yeah, I think when the immune system has to kick in, when the weather starts to change, and when the immune system has to stand up and kind of fortify itself, when it's supposed to do what it's supposed to naturally do, that's when things are going to really start getting, that's when things are really going to start getting, you know what I mean? Dark. What I said in my video, the first video, the Matrix 2021, is that we all need to embrace death, and we need to embrace being alone. And when I say being alone, I don't mean like alone. I mean the ostracism of the world. I mean family turning their backs. You know what I'm saying? I mean people that you've worked with for 20 and 30 years no longer speaking to you because you are taking sovereignty over your own body, right? That's a different level of mental and spiritual and emotional abuse, right? And the pain that comes with that type of reality, right? I won't say most, a lot of people have not kind of sharpened their spiritual sword, so to speak, their mental sword, so to speak, right? To even as dark as it can possibly get, to still be of sound mind and body, to be able to still get through, right? So the death piece, because death is hovering over America, because it was prophecy, and because they have already implemented, going back to the conversation, well, don't talk about it. If you don't talk about it, then it's not going to happen. Yeah, but let's not forget that, what are we at, 3.5 billion now globally that have actually said, yes, give it to me, that have consented, right? So, and mind you, people that I know and love, right? So now, just a side note to that, all of those shots, some of them are placebo. So there are a percentage of people around the world that are not really getting the real ones, because it's a process. It's how they do it. Remember, we're in an experimental phase. So part of the experiment is, what do they call it? There's a certain word for it, a terminology for it. At this stage of the, it'll come to me. But so some of them are placebo, and then some of them are the real deal, right? So the best I think that we can pray for our loved ones is that they got one of those saline shots, right? Or that their immune system is so fortified, you know what I mean? And their vibrational countenance, so to speak, is so high that it can't take effect. One thing that I do know, and I'm researching all of the potential, things that you can do to maybe get it out of the body. I know a lot of people have put some stuff on the table, but I only deal with what makes sense to me, right? What I do know is that the technology that is in the jabs is frequency based. So if the technology is frequency based, right, then fortifying your immune system and being vibrationally focused or focusing on your frequency, in my mind, based on what I know about the human body and the human mind and the way that spiritual laws work, you should be able to overcome it. The caveat is most people do not have the internal discipline and the focus to do it. And that's going to be because I got, a sister asked me, she sent me a message and said, I had to get it, whatever, whatever. I said, you don't have any more days off. You don't have any more days off. You got to be, your immune system has to be your number one priority. Your frequency has to be your number one priority now, right? So most people don't have the self-discipline and the willpower to do what it's going to take. Because remember, this is a spiritual war. And your body is only reacting to what's happening in your mind, right? And on a spiritual level, the life that you've created for yourself. So if you're watching MSNBC every day, and if you're watching CNN every day, you're already on the wrong path. If you're still going to McDonald's, you're way on the wrong path, particularly since for the last 2 years, year and a half, the only thing we've been talking about is health. Right. So that's all the whole world has been talking about is health, and you're still putting garbage in your body. What are we supposed to do with that? What is humanity supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? So people got to get serious. And I see what's going to happen on the other side of this, and I know it's going to happen in our lifetime, but it's going to be a lot of pain and a lot of purging that's going to happen on this planet in order for us to get there. You know what I mean? Because we got people spraying stuff in our skies all the time. We're breathing it in, the water. Everything is toxic in this world. So in order for us to build a new world, that means we have to detoxify everything. How many people do we know that are actually qualified to look up in the upper atmosphere and say, okay, they've been spraying trillions of tons of barium and strontium and aluminum and polymer fibers and all these particles in the atmosphere. They've completely changed the dispensation of how our planet, the weather system is operating, right? Who's qualified among the righteous to take that science and to change the trajectory of what's happening in our upper atmosphere? That's where my mind is at, right? We've had these people creating genetically modified food. They got oranges and lemons without seeds in them now, right? Bill Gates is buying up all of the farmland in America. They've got a seed vault up in Alaska where they're saving all of the organic seeds and trying to keep people from. Who has the know-how in the agricultural world to say, okay, here's where we are. We got to start from scratch again. Here's how we repopulate, or here's how we, toil the soil, and you know what I'm saying? Get the particles. That's where we got to be. Quantum.
Yeah.
In the quantum world, tomorrow is already here. What was that?
My rain stick.
But that just means I just said something that the ancestors approved of. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The ancestors have approved. The universe has co-signed this conversation. Yes. So everything I just said.
Thank you, rain stick. I'm gonna show you. It's actually a rain stick.
It's a what?
It's a rain stick. And I put the Cafecito logo on top of it, but I'm sitting here in awe and also in deep appreciation for this conversation, and awe because you're such a well-studied woman, and to be able to just give us so many nuggets, so many jewels, and also tidbits of how we can manage moving forward. And it's not going to be easy, but for the community members that are tuning in, this is one of the reasons that I wanted to have this opportunity to chat with Zaza again, because of these conversations that we had today and the topics that we covered. It's hard to talk about them in different places.
It's very hard. And I want to say something because I want to leave the audience on the right frequency, right? In all of the scriptures, there's this thing about consent, right? I called and you came, right? I didn't promise you anything and you still submitted yourself to me, right? That's a recurring theme in all of the different theologies around the world, right? So if I'm processing that and internalizing that the right way, then that tells me all I have to do is stand my ground. All I have to do is remain true to myself, remain true to my integrity, not compromise myself. A lot of people are worried right now about, oh, my job, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. The planet is 196,940,000 square miles. The amount of land where food can be grown on this planet, do we actually really think if I go outside and plant a seed in the ground right now and water it, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a little plant is going to start coming out, right? So let's be clear. As powerful as these people seem, as wicked as they are, as massive as this agenda is, we're in one galaxy of 200 billion galaxies. The only power they have is the power that we actually give them. You see what I'm saying? So whereas in one breath we can look at Fauci and Gates and all of these wicked ass, excuse me, these wicked demons, but then we can also look at the sun and the moon and the rotation of the planets and everything that's happening in the solar system. Nature is not pressed right now at all.
Mm-hmm.
Mountains aren't worried. Oceans aren't
They're still
stressed.
doing their thing.
The water is moving, the sand grains, right? The palm trees, the the fish and the birds and the parakeets and the bear, they're not stressed at all. Why? Because they don't have they don't have to deal with the how am I going to pay my bills? My boss is getting ready to fire me. So they are so sure of their place in the divine order of things. Can you imagine me sitting down with Smokey the Bear and being like, "So what's your plan? Are you gonna take it or not? Are you gonna? Well, I don't know. I really want to go to Canada next year. You see what I'm saying? How
Yes, yes, I love it. We are these beautiful divine beings,
yes,
and we thrive even under the most unbelievable
the most pressure.
conditions.
That's where the most precious jewels come from. The most pressure, and we're going to have to evolve into God consciousness in order to get through this. That's what's going to be on the other end of this. A world and a reality full of high vibrational frequency beings that are ready to create a new world.
Diamonds in the making.
Yes. So ZazaAli.com is my website, you guys. I have written 2 books, 4 workbooks. My Keys to Woman workbook, it's in the other room, but I got the shipment today. I wanted to show it to you, but it's fine. My Keys to Womanhood workbook is out now, available for purchase. And I have workshops and, all kind of stuff on my website. I have, 10 years worth of content, videos, whatnot. You can go watch and follow me on social media and just I definitely want to come back soon. I feel like your vantage point and your energy is important right now, as is all of us, right? We're so rare. You do realize how rare you are in this day and time, right? I just want to make sure we're clear.
Thank you.
If you're listening to this and you are vibrating with the truth that's coming from between me and this beautiful woman right here, we are very, 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 very rare in this day and time, and we need to be able to stop and be like, yeah, I'm one of the ones,
Right, and that includes
and be
everyone,
proud of
right?
that.
Everyone who's tuning in, and that's why I'm so delighted that we were able to have this chat, because I do see a lot of people who are just really feeling so sad,
Mhm.
and they feel ostracized from their family and community members, and I want them to know that energetically there are sisters out here that are we're resonating, we're having similar experiences, and we're not saying that everything's going to be perfect, but if we're together, even if it's just we're tapping in and tuning in on a frequency level, we can be that much stronger.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been such an amazing conversation. Muchas bendiciones. And I cannot wait to catch up with you again. And for everyone who's tuned in, thank you community members for your presence. Muchas bendiciones. And Zaza, just reading a couple of, you've got some thank you queens. People saying that the breath is most important.
Yes.
But that definitely thank yous and congratulations to your son.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
no,
Thank you.
it's
Yes.
so lovely. I'm pretty sure that we connected with, and that's what I wanted to have, a conversation, two sisters who are California, New York. We're seeing similar things. We're having similar experiences. We're all in this boat in some way, feeling it together. You guys are not alone. Zaza, muchas bendiciones. God bless you. Much prosperity. ZaZaAli.com. I highly recommend you tune into her YouTube channel when you are feeling like you need some of the sister energy. That's where I go. So now you know one of my secrets, guys.
Thank you so much, sis. I look forward to coming back and speaking with you and your audience soon. And you cover down, you know what I mean, and stay strong and listen. We need light bearers. You know what I'm saying? So even when it feels like it doesn't matter, or like remember that emanation that I talked about, that resonance that I talked about, as you move through the world, your frequency is resonating. You know what I mean, throughout this planet. So please don't ever feel like it doesn't matter, or like people aren't listening, or like we don't need you. Even if you are, and I'm talking to everybody now, kind of doing it on your own and with yourself. I'd rather live in truth. I don't care how difficult it is. I don't care what. I'd rather live in truth every time. Every single time I'm choosing truth. You know what I'm saying? So if you're choosing truth right now and you're choosing yourself and you're not conforming and jeopardizing your integrity, stand strong on that. You know what I mean? And feel proud about that, because you're on the winning team and we will be victorious. Trust and believe that.
Wepa. I love that. Thank you, everyone. Mwah.
Peace, Queen.
Peace.